I want to welcome everybody to another episode of Politics with Q and Mr. Nobody, where we talk about politics from the black perspective. And as you see, we're on YouTube now, so we're moving on up in the world. And I want to thank y'all for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your feedback. Before we get started, if you could like, subscribe, subscribe, and share. Tell everybody about me. Let's get this thing rolling. Today I want to talk about health and wellness, especially in the black community. Now, to start, don't get me wrong, I'm not no small guy myself, so I'm learning as we go. But it's been a phrase that's been brought to me a couple times called health is wealth. And it really is. I've been told I had high blood pressure, so now I'm in the midst of doing everything I can to get my blood pressure down, eating better, trying to exercise more, just doing what I can. So basics that we don't look at is stuff like sugar. Sugar is the number one villain in the black community. A lot of black people got to put sugar on everything. We got to put salt on everything. Nothing wrong with it. Don't get me wrong, but it's not good for us. Sugar leads to a lot of ailments. Leads to dementia. Sugar on the brain for old people leads to dementia. Sugar in the bloodstream, diabetes. We got to do better to take care of ourselves. It all dates back to slavery times. For a lot of people who don't know, slave masters used to give the slaves parts of the pig or the parts of the cow that they refuse to eat, that they think is trash. Ribs, pork chops, knuckles, pig snout, pig ears. They gave that to the slaves to eat on because they felt like it was garbage part of the pig, when it turned out to be, well, still garbage, but it's we as black people, we turned around and made it into a delicacy. But here it is, anything in too much consumption is going to be detrimental. We can't eat this type of stuff. Fried foods, we can't help it. It's good every so often, but we can't eat fried food. We got to stay away from that stuff. We got to stay away from a lot of carbs, a lot of this, a lot of that. What we need to intake in our diet, and this is just my belief: fish, protein. For those of you who like deer meat, because deer meat doesn't have any fat in it. And a lot of vegetables. For me personally, that's hard. I'm working on that. But, it is what it is. Our parents raised us on basically feeding us anything they could find in the refrigerator. They just did what they were raised to do by their parents and their parents' parents. Health was an issue, but it wasn't prevalent like it is now. So, just whip up a hamburger or two or three and feed it to the children wasn't nothing, wasn't an issue. But, nowadays it is. Let's just stay healthy. I know as black folks, we love us some Kool-Aid and soda. Gotta stay away from that too. Anything in excessive consumption can be detrimental. We gotta remember that. So let's try staying away from that stuff. I'm speaking to myself when I say that. Uh, I'm going to start trying me a new diet of apple juice and water, 100% pure apple juice and water, or maybe orange juice. But sodas and things with excessive sugars, I want to take that out of my diet. Um, Apple juice or orange juice, I haven't said, it has to be 100% apple juice or orange juice. But just to get the weight down, feel healthier, live longer, be around to see my grandkids. Not too soon though, but yeah, be around to see my grandkids. I want to work on that. So if anybody want to take this challenge with me, feel free to email me at pwqatl@mail.com. Once again, that's pwqatl@mail.com, and drop a line. If you have a journey that you're on or that you're starting, feel free to talk to me about it. Let me know what you got going on. I love to read it on the line and let everybody else know what you got going. So once again, hit me up, pwqatl@mail.com. Politics with Q. Once again, I ask you to please like, subscribe, and share. Let everybody know. We're a new show. We're new to the air. So all this is new to me, but it's a learning experience, and I think I'm gonna love it. I'm liking it so far. Just talking, being myself, talking to y'all, and looking for the feedback. I got feedback when I was just doing audio podcasts. So, this whole visual podcast is new to me. So once again, thank y'all for watching. Thank you for listening. And we're going to take a break, and we'll be back. And I do apologize. I want to thank my service members. Today is Memorial Day. I want to thank my active service members, my former service members, veterans, you name it. I thank you. That was something I wanted to do when I was younger, was get out and serve. But, you know, as chips fall where they may. It didn't happen, so I can't do nothing but thank y'all for being able to go out there and do it for me. Want to get into relationships. I know every culture has its own way of handling relationships, man and woman, married, husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, or whatever the case may be. But we have these things that we like to call now toxic relationships, where one party or both parties want to get violent. You got your male on female, which is been common since the 60s. You got your female on male, which is becoming more common because they didn't do that back in the 60s. And if they did, it was frowned upon very highly. Not saying it's right, not saying either way it goes right. My opinion is biased, but my thing is what makes a toxic relationship. And this is just my opinion. When you have one or both parties been through a traumatizing past, and that past reoccurs in their present, in their future. It ain't that they meant to do it, but it just keeps happening. It just keeps reoccurring, keep popping up. How can one handle that? Because somebody has a traumatizing past and they deal with it in the present. Does that mean that their relationship don't have a future? In my opinion, I don't think that that's what it means. I think that what's the best use of words? The party that's traumatized, they can't help themselves. So it's up to the party that isn't traumatized to be patient with them, to walk with them through it, and try to help them seek help, um, to understand that they have an issue. And with that, it's just my opinion. I'm not no psychologist, no psychiatrist, so don't quote me to be. But, in dealing with that, it helps that party deal with their issues mentally a little bit better. And then you got some people that's just straight up nut jobs. I mean, you just put it out there. It is what it is. Um, those individuals, can they be helped? Maybe. I don't know. Um, People that I've dealt with in my past, they was always, you try to deal with them with ease, because once you start to understand that that's just how they act naturally, it becomes a little easier to deal with them, a little easier to understand them. Because most people that's dealt with something in their past, they're going to constantly talk about it. They're going to constantly bring it up. They're going to constantly compare what you're dealing with to what they dealt with in the past. And it either triggers them or they feel like it's going to be a repeated cycle. So, how to fix a toxic relationship? Like I say, if you're the same party, you got to have patience to walk with the person who is insane. And if I'm incorrect in saying that, I do apologize. Um, but that's just the best way I could describe a toxic, non-toxic person. Um, if both parties are toxic, which that seems to be becoming a more common thing now, both parties are toxic, then more than likely they're both going to end up on the news, because one's going to kill the other. Don't want to put it like that. I hate to say it like that, but 9 times out of 10, that's what ends up happening. Uh, Toxic relationship, crazy woman ends up stabbing his her crazy husband, or vice versa. Or even if it's same sex, I mean, that don't make a difference. It's all in the mindset of the person or the persons. So, um, but for these people, the only thing we can do is pray. Pray for their minds, pray for their mental, pray for their safety. Um, if you have a relative that's like that, there are numbers um, that you can call to have these people seeked out for help, seeked out for therapy. Uh, Next time I come on the air, I can get these numbers for you. As a matter of fact, if you email me, if you're interested, email me at pwqatl@mail.com, and I can get you, and I'll email you back some information. Um, so once again, put that email out there, tell your friends. pwqatl@mail.com. Like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Help me run my numbers up. Anybody got anything they want to talk about, any subjects, any issues, uh, I read them out on the air. If you want to remain anonymous, just put in your headline, please remain anonymous. And I will be sure not to read your name. But if you want your name read on the air, you can state that as well. Read my name, or, if you don't put remain anonymous, I won't read your name. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. This is the first airing of Politics with Q and Miss Nobody, where we talk about politics from the Black perspective. We're going to wrap this up. I'm feeling happy about this, and I'm hoping that this channel takes off. So once again, I want to thank y'all for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you interacting. Uh, we're gonna call this a day. Happy Memorial Day. Peace.